Hey, my friend, it's Melanie Ferguson, your host of Creatives on Fire, the podcast where I hope to inspire you to create a profitable six-figure following online. So turn it up and listen in to amazing stories of success, along with behind-the-scenes secrets and valuable tips from, you guessed it, Creatives on Fire. Hey, my sweet friend, Melanie here. I have a couple of questions for you. I want to ask you if you are struggling at all with overwhelm, feeling like you need to be in a million places, not having enough time. Maybe you struggle with feeling like you're not good enough. Or who am I? Who am I to be sharing this with my audience? That imposter syndrome that a lot of us struggle with. What about just knowing what the next step is you should take in your business? Does any of this resonate with you? If so, I'd love to invite you to Creatives on Fire Insiders. This is an amazing group of creatives who are finding success and growing their businesses together. It's designed to stop the overwhelm, to build your confidence, and to guide you through the next steps you should take in your business. A lot of our focus inside is on video and live video specifically, how to get good at it, how to really capitalize on the time that we spend in our businesses. If this sounds like anything that interests you, come spend some time with us, because let's face it, who you spend your time with matters. Check us out at creativesonfireinsiders.com. We'll see you there. Welcome back, everybody. This week, I have an amazing guest. Her name is Katie Fisher, and she is the expert on all things finance. Katie, introduce yourself.
Hello there. Yes. Hello, I'm Katie Fisher. I am a small business owner and finance expert, and I'm excited to chat with you guys today.
Well, we're excited to have you. This is kind of one of those sticking points. People get stuck so often on finances, and you have figured out a way, strangely enough, to make it easy and fun to keep track. So tell us a little bit about, as new business owners, what we need to be taking note of.
Yeah, well, first, don't avoid it. I know that it can be super overwhelming, and a lot of times it's a lot easier for us to avoid it than it is to just deal with it. I found that that's probably the most common thing that small business owners do, is we just shove it over to the side and pretend like it's not there. And that can not only, cause you a huge tax liability, but can also cause you to be losing money in your business and not even be aware that that's happening. So it's very important first to deal with it and setting up a system to deal with it. I guess I shouldn't say deal with it like it's, a bad thing, but setting up routines, setting up systems, and having policies and methods for handling your bookkeeping in place is probably the most important. One of the things that seems kind of silly, but that I talk about most often is just having a place to put, your bills, having a check registry, or accounting software. So whether you're using QuickBooks or whether you're using an Excel spreadsheet, having something where you can keep track of the money that's coming in and the money that's going out in place is one of the best things that you can do for your business. So setting up your business when first getting started, you definitely need to be separating those personal and business expenses. So having a separate checking account for your business that has a separate debit card and a checkbook. I know that these days, not many people write checks, but especially when paying subcontractors, employees, things like that, it's important to create that paper trail so we know where our money is going, and that way we can prove to the IRS where our money is going.
I have to agree with that. I mean, yeah. The checkbook part, don't let that intimidate you, because most banks will give you just some temporary checks, and those are pretty much all you'll ever need depending on the size of your business. But starting out, those first 10 little checks they give you should definitely hold you over. And I love that you're talking about systems, because if I've learned anything in business, it's that everything gets a little smoother and a little easier when it is in a system almost running itself. So I can't wait to hear what else.
And it's not even like with the bill thing, you know, I have what is it called? Like a caddy that sits on my desk. That's perfect. It holds my envelopes, it holds my bills, it holds my check. I don't even have a checkbook registry. I have a notebook that I use because as a small business, we own a construction business and then I have a creative business as well. In our construction business, I mean, there's expenses constantly coming and going. And so a check registry just doesn't keep up with that. And so I have a notebook that I keep everything in, just cash flow wise. Now I keep all of our expenses and income tracked in QuickBooks, but I have to know how much money is in our checking account at all times. And so just checking that, having the banking app on our phone, simple things like that can do a number for your business finances. So just having a place where you're going to put your bills, having a place where you're going to put your bills before they've been paid and then after they've been paid. So you don't have just a big stack of things that you have to sort through every month. And I say too, I think one of the best things that you can do as a small business owner who's just getting started is breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. So not waiting until the end of the month to handle it, but maybe handling it every Friday or every other Friday, not saying, okay, once a month, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to handle all of this. Like, let's break it down week by week or bi-weekly.
I love that tip.
It's overwhelming. Having this overwhelming pile of things that we have to deal with. So those are just some of the very basic things that we can put in place. Other than that, just like I said, separating your business and personal expenses, creating systems, and tracking your income and expenses. I think that's probably where the most people get overwhelmed. Like, how do I do this? What do I do? What do I track? So there's a couple ways that you can do that. So you can do it if you're a small business, you can just save your receipts and calculate them every week or every couple of weeks and separate them by category. You can use QuickBooks. There's Wave software, which is kind of similar to QuickBooks. It's more for beginners. Or you can use a simple Excel spreadsheet to track that income and those expenses. Taxes as a small business owner is probably the thing that most of us think about. Like, we have to be ready for taxes. We have to be ready for taxes. Unfortunately, we don't often think about it until January 1. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I have to file my taxes. And so by doing those things throughout the year, it's going to help you have a more accurate return. It's going to help you have a better handle on your business. And it's going to help you be more profitable because by tracking your income and expenses, you're going to know whether your business is making money. And if your business is not making money, then you're going to know like, hey, I need to adjust something. I either need to reduce my expenses or increase my income, or maybe I just need to pivot completely because this business is not generating the revenue that it needs to be to sustain itself.
That is so smart.
And I think last but not least, setting aside, like allocating money for taxes, for paying ourselves, and for savings for our business. If you have a seasonal business, it's going to be great during the season, but during the off season, you're still going to have those same, insurance, utilities, website fees, all those things that you're still going to have to maintain that you're going to need business savings for. And then, of course, setting aside money for taxes. If you think that you're going to have a tax liability, then it's important to, set aside the money for that.
So let me ask you this, Katie, if you have no idea, now I know that it's different for every single person. However, you know what I'm going to ask, where do you start? Like if I am a baby business owner and I am wanting to start doing the right thing and I want to pay myself and I want to save some for my business and I want to save a little bit for taxes, is there anything in those three categories I could just at least kind of throw at the wall as numbers or percentages?
It is so different. So how I always recommend for my girls, which I know this is not your generic answer, but it has proven to work very well for myself and all the people that I work with. We start with an overhead budget per se. So I have them break down their overhead. So overhead are things like your advertising, your website fees, what did your cost of goods sold. Now, this is difficult for a brand new baby business owner, right? Because they don't have the previous year's tax returns to go off of. So you are going to be guessing and estimating a lot. And I I say take it month by month. For your first 3 months that you're doing it, take it month by month. After you have 3 months worth of averages, then you can put together kind of a whole year's plan. So cost of goods, what you're paying out in labor, what you're paying out in utilities, what you're paying out in advertising. Track those expenses for 3 months and see what you're spending on those. See how much money you have left over see what your profit is. After you know your profit for 3 months, after you've tracked your overhead for 3 months, you'll know for A, what your business needs to bring in every month in order to be able to sustain itself. B, what your profit is, so that way you can kind of calculate what you could potentially owe. Typically, they say to times that by 25 to 30% and set aside that amount. So timesing your profit by 25 to 30%. And then you're also going to know what your business can afford to pay you. So after you've calculated what your business needs to sustain itself, what your business needs to set aside for taxes, then whatever's left is what your business could actually afford to pay you. And sometimes as new business owners, our businesses can't afford to pay us anything. But by tracking those numbers, it's again going to tell us what do we need to do in order to make this happen. And one of the cool things that I love about tracking overhead and tracking our expenses is it allows us to know, okay, this is how much money I need to make every month to sustain my business. If I times that or divide that by, say, my best seller, which costs, $20. So I take, 500 divided by 20. Now I know how many products I need to sell in order to make that amount of money. And so I think that it helps us set smart financial goals, sales goals in a sense, because now we know how much money we need to bring in, and anything that we bring in over that, we know that that's profit for our business.
That's so smart. And it's so true that once you get really clear on the numbers, you can actually visualize what it is you need to do on the daily basis to make it happen. I love that. So let me back it up just a little bit where you said that we need to make sure that we are saving back, putting back for the lean times. So everybody's making all this, fun money in the holiday season, but now we get slapped with, the first quarter and bump, everything slows down. How is there like a rule of thumb of what you should be setting aside just to run your business, or how can we calculate that?
It's hard for a new business owner because we're not going to have that linear data to track, right? Whereas a business owner who's maybe been in business for 5, 10 years, we can see, I know when our slow times are going to be now, but our first few years, we didn't know. So, we're out there having a good time, like you said, during our busy season, and now winter comes and we're having to go to mom and dad's to eat dinner because we didn't put anything back for it. So for one, your first year is going to be difficult because you're not going to know when those peaks and valleys are going to be. So having a checking account cushion for at least 1 month's worth of expenses is always a good idea. But a lot of other financial advisors will recommend that you have 3. For our business, keep 3 months worth of expenses, overhead expenses, because I know what our peaks and valleys are going to be.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That data is super important. And I mean, even as an Etsy seller, I can go back and look at my data. Okay, these are my months when things were going super well, and these are my months when things were super slow. So even when I was selling on Etsy full-time as a creative seller, I knew that January, February, and March, end of March, mid-March, were going to be slow months for me. But I knew that September through November was going to be swamped. I sell a Cabbage Patch wig hat, a crochet hat. And that's the only thing that I sell now. And it generates my income for the entire year.
There's some gold in that right there, because you just basically said you sell one thing and it generates an amazing income. So nailing a niche and getting really small, you sell one thing on Etsy and it blows up for you.
Yep.
So,
but I had, in order to I can only sell that one thing because I sell so much of it that I can't keep up with selling anything else. So.
Right. So let me ask you, Katie, when we are trying to figure out, we're new and we're trying to figure out that expense part, and we're trying to figure out, well, what do I say that I'm going to put in that little box on my spreadsheet for my labor, my time?
Yeah. Okay. So figuring out, I actually have a labor or pricing calculator that I will send you that as well. Knowing what our time is worth is super important. And I think that that's something that we don't include in our pricing. So with the pricing calculator, how I have it broken down is our labor rate times how many hours or minutes it took us to do that, plus our profit, which our profit is how much we're going to put back into our business. So typically that is also timed by the amount of time that you spent on it. So we have our labor rate, which that's totally up to you, but I say you're worth at least $15 an hour. So that's my starting rate is $15 an hour times the amount of hours that I worked times my profit rate. Then I also add in my overhead rates. And then I add in my cost of goods. And so when we use the pricing calculator that I'll make sure that I send you, it calculates the price. So that calculates your wholesale price.
So, Katie, I love everything you've shared. I cannot wait to get serious, because I feel like once you start, tracking your numbers and actually doing the hard things, because for us creatives, this is kind of the hard things. Then life gets a little more crystal clear and your business becomes something that seems like there's light at the end of the tunnel. So how do we get a hold of all of this goodness that you have? How do we reach out to you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Katie Fisher, or you can go to my website, which is kdcreativebalance.com. I have tons of resources and goodies for you guys there. And I think the important thing to remember too, this is only a season. So if accounting and bookkeeping and keeping track of all of this is not your thing, then budget it in, allocate money to hire a bookkeeper. It doesn't have to be a permanent thing. It just has to get you through the season until you're able to outsource that.
Gotcha. And so do you do that, or do you have anybody you recommend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay! I can help with all of their bookkeeping and accounting needs. I don't file taxes. However, I do have an amazing CPA that we work together as a team. So I handle all the bookkeeping and accounting and cash flow kind of stuff. And then at the end of the year, she takes over and files the taxes. But we do work together with our clients quarterly to make sure that everybody's on track as they should be. So
that is so smart. So smart. Yeah. Well, Katie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you for coming on and pouring into us. And I will make sure to drop all of her wonderful links, including that calculator, here in the show notes.
That's right. We got to make sure we're paying ourselves.
Yes.
For sure.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, my friend, for listening to the podcast. I'm blessed every single time you come back and listen to an episode. It's especially amazing when you share it with others on social media. So be sure to follow Creatives on Fire online. Listen, if you have not already done so, I want you to go ahead and download the 5 ideas I personally used to explode my online audience growth to a 6-figure following. You can find that at creativesonfirepodcast.com. I appreciate you, and until next time, stay inspired.